Good evening and welcome to Ajahn Brahm Live. You just heard the tape recordings, but this is a real thing. So hopefully you're nice and comfortable, and we'll start another Dhamma talk. I don't know how many Dhamma talks I've given in the years I've been a monk. Sometimes it's more than one a day, 2, 3 a day, 365 days a year. There's thousands of talks. And still people come and hear it. So always got to try and think of something new. Try and think of a different way of expressing the beautiful teachings of the Buddha. And for this evening's talk, it's going to be about the 5 hindrances, but especially how they relate to the way you look at life. And the way I'm going to teach this evening is going to be very helpful for all you meditators. But it's also going to be very helpful for those of you who aren't meditating, who have to live in the world, living life, because this is how you deal with the events of life. Whether it's events which happen while you're meditating, or whether it's what happens just when you're out there in the world. The point is, it's not what you experience which is the problem. It's how you experience it. That's the problem. And I'm going to start with the yogis who've been meditating here, because sometimes you've been doing all sorts of things during this meditation. And sometimes you come to me in the interviews and say, oh, it's terrible, my mind is doing this and my mind is doing that. And I always say, have you ever noticed? I say, oh, that's good, that's excellent. And I do that on purpose, because there's nothing you can't use in life to gain enlightenment. Everything is useful. Which is why that when you have got a restless mind, you say, oh, wonderful, thank you, mind, for being restless. You embrace it. You have this wonderful loving kindness, which you've heard me say, oh, the door of my heart is open to you, no matter what you are like. It's called metta, loving kindness. The opposite of that is called ill will, where you say, mind, if you are peaceful, if you behave yourself, then I'll like you. Otherwise, you awful mind, you hopeless mind, you stupid mind, I must be the worst meditator in this whole retreat. Actually, there's many people who have come and thought they were the worst meditator in this whole retreat. Everyone can't be a worse meditator. It's just like the old, here's a nice little, to show just how wishful thinking and deceit, how ill will bend the truth. Now I want you to be absolutely honest here. To ask yourself, do you think you are above average intelligence or below average intelligence? If you think you're above average intelligence, put your hand up. Go on, be honest. Now the point is, about 99% of people in this room think they're above average intelligence. Isn't that right? But you can't all be above average intelligence. Average intelligence means half of you have to be below average intelligence, and half of you are above. But the point is, it's wishful thinking. The way we look at life bends the truth. Because we don't like to be below average intelligence, we bend the truth. And this is what the hindrances are all about. It's not what we're seeing, what we're experiencing, what we're knowing is a problem. It's how we are knowing it. We don't accept it. We don't open the door of our heart to it. We want to get rid of it. We want to make it something different. That's the problem in life. For example, there's a lot of kids here this evening. Welcome, kids. Sometimes you know what it's like at the end of the year when you get your report. Sometimes the report's not that good. And sometimes you get very afraid. Hello. It's not what you do. Okay. But it's not what you experience is the problem, it's how you experience it. So if somebody comes up in front of my face with a camera, I just enjoy myself, who cares? Now, back to your examinations. Sometimes you children, when you do your examinations, have you ever come bottom of the class? Someone has to come bottom of the class. So it's not coming bottom or top which is a problem, it's how you deal with it. That's the problem. So when I was a school teacher, for 1 year I was a school teacher, and I tell, if you teach children in the West, you know how hard it is, how indisciplined the children are in the West. Have you ever seen Western schools? Oh, you can't tell the children to do anything. You can't cane them, you can't do anything. They've got their rights. The teacher's got no rights. So if you teach in a high school in the West, it's enough to make anyone want to leave the world and become a monk or a nun. Oh, it's so hard. But anyway, in my class, at the end of the year, there was one boy who came 30th. There were 30 children in the class. And so when he gave the reports out, he came 30th. There had to be one child who came 30th, and it happened to be him. And when he opened up his report card, you can see he looked so depressed, so upset, so miserable. He had to take that report card to his parents, and I don't know what they would do. And so he looked just so unhappy. And even then I was a Buddhist. So because I was a Buddhist school teacher, I thought, now there's suffering. Out of compassion, I've got to help this kid. So I went up to the kid and I taught him some Buddhism. Actually, it was Mahayana Buddhism I taught him about the Bodhisattva. Because I said that a Bodhisattva is someone who abandons his own happiness for the sake of others. And I said, now that's what you have just done. You have abandoned your own happiness and you sacrificed yourself by taking this awful position of coming 30th in the class because you're concerned that no one else, all your friends, don't have to have that ignominy and that shame of coming last in the class. You are so caring and compassionate for others to take the awful position so no one else has to. You are like a bodhisattva. You deserve a medal. You are the most compassionate and kind person in this whole class of 30 because you've come bottom so no one else has to. He thought I was crazy. But the point was he laughed and that took away his depression. And in the next year, someone else was the bodhisattva of the class. So if there's any school teachers here, the kid who comes the 30th, now that is an incipient bodhisattva. Someone who sacrifices themselves for others. So the point was, it's not coming bottom of the class which is the problem. It's how you deal with it. Your attitude towards that event in your life. Now the Buddha taught these 5 hindrances. And for those of you who've heard his 5 hindrances before, just have a think of them again. What is it? It's desire, usually sensory desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse, and doubt. That's nothing concerned with what you are experiencing. It's all how you experience it. What you're experiencing, have you got desire for it? Do you want it? Are you trying to crave for it and hold on to it? What you experience is something you don't want. So sloth and torpor is just when you don't want it and you just blank out. Restlessness and worry, when you can't be content with what you've got, you always want to go somewhere else. And doubt is you don't know what you're doing. You can't understand what's happening. It's all nothing to do with what you're experiencing. It's all to do with how you are experiencing life. That's all. So all of you meditators, it doesn't matter what is going on in your mind right now. What is the content of your consciousness? What's most important is what you're doing about it. It's the same for people in the lay world. For example, if you feel depressed, it's not that depression is the problem. It's actually how you deal with depression. That's the problem. So my advice, if you're depressed, enjoy it. Say, depression, come, more please. Because there's a lot of advantages when you're depressed. You don't have to go to work. You can stay in bed all day. You don't have... So the point being is, the reason why depression gets deeper is because we don't like to be depressed. We have ill will towards depression. A lot of times depression is just tiredness. The poor mind has been working very hard. It's been disappointed in life. It's got no energy. It's got no oomph inside of it. And what do? We get depressed about being depressed. And we get even more tired, more depressed. Which is why that anyone who knows depression knows it's a spiral. You go deeper and deeper, digging your own hole as you try to struggle out. So if someone comes depressed, and they come to me and say, what's wrong with being depressed? It's not against the 5 precepts. I haven't heard the Buddha say, depression where amanisi karpadang sapadhyami. Now when I say that, what happens is because they feel at ease with being depressed, the depression lifts. They're making peace with it. They're not fighting it. They're not adding ill will towards their depression. So they're not feeding it. And then they find that depression lifts. The depression is just part of life. There are some times when things go so out of control and things go wrong. They don't go wrong. Everything goes right in life, all about cause and effect. But we say it goes wrong. What about when you're sick? What do you do when you get sick? When you go to see the doctor, what do you say? You say, there's something wrong with me, doctor. I'm sick. What a silly thing to say. Hands up anyone here who has never been sick. So you have all been sick, or you're deaf, one of the two. You didn't hear the question. You've all been sick. Actually, it would be very strange, it would be very abnormal if you weren't sick from time to time. Isn't that correct? In fact, there'd be something very wrong if you were never sick. So actually, if you get sick, it's right. So the next time you feel sick and you go to see the doctor, please be honest. Please be a Buddhist. Please be wise and tell that doctor, doctor, there's something right with me, I'm sick again. There's nothing wrong with being sick. It's not the sickness, it's the way we look at it, the attitude we have towards it. I don't want to be sick. That's the problem. In all of these cases, it's not what you experience in life, it's how you experience it is the problem. All of you meditators here, you've been meditating here for, 3 days already? You've got 6 days to go. Some of you will start to experience boredom. You get bored. Here we go. Get up in the morning, do the chanting, do the meditation, same old breakfast, same old talk, sitting, walking, my God, more sitting, more walking. Can't we do something different? You get bored. Now, this is what you should do with boredom. Boredom is one of the most interesting subjects. When you're bored, find out, has it got any feelings in the body of boredom? Where is actually this boredom? Is it actually a feeling of heat or pain or aching anywhere in the body? When it's bored, does it actually get intense bored, medium bored or light bored? Does it actually change throughout the day? There's different sort of intensities of boredom. And actually, what makes a boredom change? What makes it go to really deep boredom? And what makes it only medium bored? And is boredom infectious? Do you catch it from the person sitting next to you? Make a study of boredom. And actually, boredom becomes an interesting subject. In fact, it gets so interesting to investigate boredom, you find you're not bored at all anymore. The point is that it's a negativity to life which makes us bored. It's not life, it's how we look at it. It's the same with happiness. Some people look at this meditation retreat and say, nothing's going on. I am not happy. Or you look at your breath and think, it's a boring breath. It's not the breath which is boring, it's you who's boring. So you put energy, you put happiness, the way you look at it. You meditate with passion. Whatever you do. You see, when I give a talk, I talk with passion. I'm a passionate Dhamma speaker. Passionate Brahm. But it's not the passion you think about, it's compassion. So what you're doing there is you're putting energy into what you're doing. And when you put energy, life, into what you're doing, the whole world wakes up. Why? Because you wake up. It's how you look at life. That's the problem. So, even if you have difficulties in life, even if there's problems, even if you've had great tragedies, you've lost a loved one to death, your business has all gone wrong, you're bankrupt, you're about to die, or your children are playing around, it doesn't matter what you're experiencing, it's how you experience it is the problem. So, you've known this simile before, I hope, because I've said this very often. When rotten things happen to you in life, it's like walking along the road and stepping in the dog poo. You get dog poo over your shoes. Next time you step in the dog poo, when things go wrong, instead of complaining and moaning, you should say, whoopee! I've got some dog poo from my mango tree. And you take that shoe back home, you scrape it off under the mango tree, you wash it off under the mango tree, and all that wonderful dog poo fertilizer goes into the roots, up the tree, and into the mango. And the next time you eat the mango from your tree, the reason why it's sweet is because the dog poo. That's how we deal with the dog poo of life. We dig it into our life, we learn from it, and that's why life is sweet. That's where our happiness comes from. We've made use of life. So nothing, not even the smelliest, dirtiest, rubbishy, horrible of experiences of life, there's nothing needs to be rejected. My monastery in Australia is in a eucalypt forest. There is a disease which has been in that forest for many, many years called jarrah dieback. So some of the jarrah trees actually die because they've got a fungus underneath. When I first came to that forest, I looked at that forest and there was a number of dead trees. And I thought, let's get all the dead trees out of the way, cut them down so the new trees can grow so we can have this beautiful, healthy forest. And somebody said, stop, don't do that. And they explained to me, and what they said was true. I've seen this over the years I've lived there. The dead trees are important because it's in the hollows of the dead trees inside. That's where the possums live. These little marsupials, like a little cat for Australia. It's in the hollows where the branches break off, where the birds nest. There's so many animals depend upon those dead trees. And when they told me how important are the dead trees to the forest in Australia, I realized, no, those trees have to stay. They too are valuable. I learned from that experience, when you look at a forest, the trees which you think are ugly, which are useless, which are unimportant, actually are sometimes the most valuable. Every tree is important in the forest. In the same way, every experience of your life is also so valuable. You don't just select, these are the nice trees, I'll keep these, and you get rid of the unpleasant trees. You don't just choose the beautiful experiences in life. All experiences in life are there for a purpose. You welcome everything. They're all essential to you. What that means, the unpleasant experience